So we're here at Imahica Art and I'm here with artist Phyllis Zaballero. Okay. So ma'am, do you want to say anything for the Filipino youth in the country?
What can I say? It's about I'm very, very happy to be doing something with other women, because as a woman artist, it's one of my pet projects is to encourage, women like you and I and me, to go into what makes them productive and happy, and art does that. So. And I'm glad to see a new gallery going up. In these days, it's difficult to have a show. And I love it when we have new venues where, we can show. It's very nice. That's why I agreed right away.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It is really good to see that art culture is still flourishing amidst the pandemic.
Yes. And, it's been like 3 years since my last one-man show. It's really bad, and you try, to go online and all that, but it's really not my forte.
So we're very grateful to Imahica Art for this opportunity. And focusing on your artwork, we would like to ask the concept behind your artwork entitled Quarantine Aubade.
Aubade. It's a French word. Usually after a lover's tryst. In French, aube means dawn. So it wasn't me who gave that name. It's the poet. Here's the way this particular painting came about.
So may I ask if did you start first with the painting and then your friend was able to create the poem, or the other way around?
It can work both ways. I've been doing this off and on for the last, 20 years, 30 years. I've had shows where my friends who are artists we have a dialogue going on. It's a conversation between painter and poet. So I've done this before, at the Yala Museum and what have you. And it's either a friend of mine who's a poet will come out with something like that really moves me, that I can, when I read it, I can actually see it, the emotion, in color, as an artwork. Or I paint something and a poet will see it and make a poem out of it.
So it's a really a collaboration. Yes, it's a dialogue. It's like it can also be a dance. Like it's my first time to actually interview an artist who has been actively collaborating with not only artists in like painters, sculptors, but also like poets.
Yes, and this is about dawn. And it's very emotional because it's it's like he broke up with a lover, or the lover just left, and there it is. It's dawn. If we read this, maybe you can put it on a thing and you'll see. That's why I insisted that the poem always accompanies the work, the artwork. And in other shows, we've had a poetry reading at the opening. So you could invite the poet, and we'd have a reading, of the poem, and then people could ask questions.
I really love the perspective that it comes from a very quarantine place, but it still gives you a hope.
Yes.
Through the window.
What you can do is read this poem for the audience sometime, and then they'll see. Now, when I read something like this, it's maybe because it's part of an experience I had. Many times that happens. You're walking down a street, and something strikes you. Then suddenly you read something. Not necessarily a poem, maybe just a sentence or two somebody wrote, and it reminds you of the street.
Yes.
So the literary arts very, very interesting.
Can you explain or describe your color palette for your artworks? Does it use, or does it has it Does it have a one tone or is it very?
Well, no, it depends on the poem.
Yeah.
And this is dawn.
Yes.
And he's talking about, so you've got this feeling of those colors in a darkened room. You're lying on a bed, and he's talking about it. And then the dawn comes through the window, and that brings on the palette that I'm looking for, you know? And then I make it up after that.
I wish I had that gift when I read poems. I could see it also.
Yes. Do you want me to read this for you?
Yes, please.
Huh? So
Yes, please.
at the same time, you look at that, no? The name of the poet is Marnie Pilates. Yeah, and he wrote this in May of 2020, and then he sent it to me. So it's
Wow.
then I right away made a painting. Okay, 2020. So he starts, how strange these days that are all the same. Today seems to come ahead of itself. The early light creeps down the downspouts in the wash area next to the kitchen. It strikes something red inside my room. See it? A shoebox or a bit of garish packaging, so that the yellow-gray dawn is tinged as if with blood. How strange or the same would this day be? How will it spend itself as it grows old like all the others? Today it brought the residue of old secret loves, conjured and nurtured in the dark, as prurient and lubricious as the gasping and grasping imagination could muster. Okay? Flimsy figments in the night air, they flirt and flee before being caught by the light, as swift and heedless as the day falls into habit, abandoned by the comforts of the dark. The waking mind rises to receive the day with bated breath, blinking in the harsh light, only once more to be stopped by death.
That's a very
Difficult
difficult heartbreak.
Heartbreak at the end.
Yes.
And then when he talks about secret loves in the dark, you know what I mean? You can just see it in your soul. So there, that I read that and I said, oh, this is a painting.
Yes. It's filled with emotion.
Yeah, like you just got out of bed. You know, that's why I put my slippers there. So that when he talks about the yellow dawn, is it?
Yeah.
That gives me the color
Yes.
combinations already, the darkness. I wanted it to have depth because looking towards the window. So there.
Actually, I really love the perspective. And I was really surprised because all this time I thought quarantine was about the COVID situation, but it's actually about...
No, you know why? Every painting I've done the last 2.5, 3 years since COVID began,
Yes.
I'm having a show in May. So I'm glad to be here to see. You hardly see these days. You don't see the paintings anymore. You know, on your computer. Iba na eh.
Oh, God. Sometimes some actually try to innovate and try to show a 3D parts, but it's different when you're really here.
Now, this I have never shown, and I probably won't anymore. When I show it once, that's it. You know, and if people are interested, then they can call the gallery later. But some other artist, maybe I'll give it to the poet.
Wow.
So we'll see.
May I just ask, since it's National Women's Month, may I ask how can you influence the youth to express their emotions or express their feelings that you have also encountered when they read poems or they're undergoing some things?
Who, about women?
Women
in particular?
Yes, women.
What can I say? You see, I began a long time ago, all right? I am what you call a balik-aral. When I went back to I graduated first from UP in a course that I hated, which was economics. So, okay, I had that, and then I had already met my future husband. and all of this. So after I graduated, I got married right away, had 3 kids. And as I am still, I was the driver, the everything. You know, you learn how to cook, learn how to garden, all of that. So, but I always wanted to be an artist from childhood. And I'm an only child, so my parents said, no, we're going to be starving, we're going to, and all of this. So I did marry somebody who is in economics. He's a banker. He's my late husband, put it that way. And after the youngest was 4, and I could put him in nursery school, I decided I was very unhappy, with life the way, I was just so stressed all the time, And so I said, I am going to do something I want to do, not to please anybody else, not to please family or, my husband or my children or anything. This is for me. So I went back to UP and I enrolled in fine arts as a freshman.
Yes.
Okay. And it took me 4 more years because even if the basics were there already, still there are courses you have to take sequentially, so you can't rush it. So it changed my life. It just totally changed my whole life. And luckily, I had a very supportive husband and children who were growing up with me, painting all over the house. And it changed. When I began, I was a very, very abstract artist. And I go back to abstraction every so often, but totally abstract because that was the way it was. We're talking of the 70s, So my teachers were all abstractionists, and also through the years that went on and on and on, maybe 20 years later or 10 years later, abstraction lost its. I could say what I wanted, but it was it would be just the title that will give away what I wanted.
Yes.
Okay. So I became slowly. I started painting in a representational way. If you see my lockdown and quarantine paintings, totally representational. And you have to evolve. You just can't get stuck, It's the only way for me. Some artists can just keep on, working in the same way, but I can't. I'm masyadong, I don't know what. I'm impatient. I see you have Julie Yuch.
Yes.
Yeah, well, she was my contemporary, and her husband was Danny Dalena was also an old friend. So nice to see, some of the artists that I'm.
You started with.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for sharing your story. I think it's really empowering women.
Yeah, women.
Yeah.
And I've always been for women, because of who I am.
Yes, of course.
And I found that most of the times the women who do all the work. Even if you're in a organization that is supposed to be for like art association, the women do all the work.